Long ago, in a time of heroes and giants, a miracle took place. A woman named Manoah and her husband desperately wanted a child, but she was unable to conceive. One day, an angel appeared to Manoah's wife with incredible news. She would give birth to a son. But this child would be no ordinary man. He would be a Nazarite, chosen by God to deliver Israel from their enemies, the Philistines. The angel gave Manoah and his wife specific instructions. Their son's hair was never to be cut, for it was the source of his incredible strength. This was the sacred Nazarite vow, a symbol of his dedication to God. The couple rejoiced at the news. Finally, their prayers had been answered. Soon, their son Samson was born, and the prophecy began to unfold. Samson grew strong and powerful, his uncut hair a visible reminder of his divine purpose. He was a wild and unpredictable young man, prone to fits of rage and impulsive actions. As Samson matured, his eyes fell upon a Philistine woman from the nearby town of Timnah. He was captivated by her beauty and determined to marry her, much to the dismay of his parents. The marriage was a risky alliance, a dangerous dance between two warring nations personified in the union of Samson and his Philistine bride, testament to his encounter with a lion and the honeycomb he found within its carcass. The Philistine men struggled to solve the riddle. In desperation, they threatened Samson's bride, demanding she coax the answer from him. Under duress, she gave in to their demands and betrayed Samson's trust. Enraged by her treachery, Samson stormed off and slaughtered 30 Philistine men from Ashkelon, taking their garments to fulfill the wager. This act of violence marked the beginning of Samson's bloody feud with the Philistines, a conflict fueled by betrayal, revenge, and divine purpose. The betrayal of his wife, orchestrated by his Philistine in-laws, ignited a firestorm of rage within Samson. He would not let such treachery go unpunished. He devised a plan, as cunning as it was destructive, to strike back at the Philistines during their harvest season. Samson captured 300 foxes, tying their tails together in pairs. Then, he attached a burning torch to each pair of tails and set them loose into the Philistines' fields. The foxes, driven by instinct and fear, ran through the standing grain, setting the fields ablaze. The flames spread rapidly, consuming the Philistines' hard-earned harvest and leaving behind a trail of devastation. This act of fiery retribution served as a clear message. Samson was not to be trifled with. The Philistines, enraged by the destruction of their crops, retaliated with brutal force. They attacked the town of Lehi, where Samson's wife and her father resided, blaming them for Samson's actions. In the ensuing chaos, Samson's wife and her father perished, victims of the escalating conflict between Samson and the Philistines. One day, as Samson traveled near the rock of Lehi, a Philistine army descended upon him. They came at him with swords and spears, confident in their numbers. But Samson was unfazed. He picked up the jawbone of a donkey, a seemingly insignificant weapon, and charged into the heart of the Philistine ranks. Empowered by the Spirit of God, Samson became an unstoppable force. He swung the jawbone with superhuman strength, each blow crushing bones and sending Philistine soldiers flying. By the time the dust settled, 1,000 Philistine warriors lay dead, slain by a single man wielding the jawbone of a donkey. This miraculous victory cemented Samson's status as a legendary hero, a symbol of God's power and the deliverer of his people. Section 5 of Fatal Attraction. Samson's exploits made him both famous and feared throughout the land, but his greatest strength, his unwavering faith in God, would soon be tested by a woman named Delilah. This Philistine temptress, with her alluring beauty and silver tongue, would prove to be Samson's undoing. Delilah was bribed by the Philistine rulers to uncover the secret of Samson's incredible strength. They knew they could not defeat him in battle, so they resorted to treachery and deceit. Delilah, motivated by greed and the promise of riches, agreed to betray the man who loved her. She showered Samson with affection, all the while prying for the source of his might. Time and again she begged him to reveal his secret, and time and again he misled her, testing her patience and resolve. But Delilah was persistent, her beauty a powerful weapon against Samson's weakening heart. Section 6. The Fall of a Giant. Finally, worn down by Delilah's incessant pleas and blinded by his love for her, Samson revealed the truth. His strength, he confessed, lay in his uncut hair, the symbol of his Nazirite vow to God. It was a secret he had guarded his entire life, a sacred covenant now broken by his own hand. As Samson slept in her lap, Delilah summoned the Philistine rulers. They came to her stealthily, their faces grim with anticipation. Delilah, with a cruel smile on her lips, took a pair of shears and sheared off Samson's hair. His power, once as mighty as a raging storm, drained away like water seeping into sand. The Philistines, emboldened by Samson's vulnerability, seized him and gouged out his eyes. They bound him in chains, a once mighty warrior reduced to a helpless prisoner. They paraded him through the streets, mocking his former glory and celebrating their triumph over the man who had haunted their nightmares. Section 7. Samson's Legacy. Imprisoned and blinded, Samson seemed defeated, but even in his darkest hour, his hair, the symbol of his covenant with God, began to grow. His captors, oblivious to the significance of this detail, continued to exploit Samson for their amusement. They brought him to the temple of Dagon, their false god, to entertain the Philistine masses. As Samson stood before the cheering crowd, his heart filled with remorse and a renewed sense of purpose. He whispered a prayer to God, begging for forgiveness and one final act of redemption. God, in his infinite mercy, answered Samson's plea. With a mighty roar, Samson pushed against the two central pillars that supported the temple. The structure groaned and swayed, its foundations crumbling under his incredible strength. The temple collapsed upon itself, burying Samson, the Philistine rulers, and thousands of their people beneath tons of rubble. In his death, Samson fulfilled his destiny. He delivered his people from oppression, not through military might, but through an ultimate act of self-sacrifice. Samson's story, though tragic, serves as a timeless reminder of the devastating consequences of sin, the immeasurable power of forgiveness, and the unwavering faithfulness of God.
In the sun-drenched hills of ancient Israel, Samson, a man chosen by God, walked towards Timnah. His powerful frame and confident stride hinted at the divine strength within him. The air, usually filled with the songs of birds, was heavy with an unnerving silence. A low growl broke the stillness, and from the shadows, a magnificent lion emerged. Its golden fur shimmering, it roared, a sound that shook the very earth. The beast lunged, claws extended, but Samson, with the sudden rush of the Lord's Spirit upon him, moved with impossible speed. He dodged the attack, the lion's claws tearing into the dust where he'd stood. The battle was fierce. The lion, enraged, attacked again and again, its massive paws and sharp teeth a terrifying threat. But Samson, fueled by divine power, met each assault with unmatched strength. He grappled with the beast, his bare hands tearing into his thick mane. The fight was a whirlwind of dust and fury, a clash between raw power and divine might. Finally, with a mighty heave, Samson overpowered the lion, his grip crushing the beast's life from its body. The once fearsome predator lay still, defeated. Samson, breathing heavily but unharmed, stood over his fallen foe. The silence returned, broken only by the wind whispering through the trees. Word of his incredible feat spread quickly, a testament to the extraordinary strength bestowed upon him by God. Samson, though, knew this was just the beginning of his destined path, a path that would be fraught with both glory and peril.